everyone, welcome back to JD Mods. I know it's been a while since I've completed the K24 Turbo Civic build, but the weather is finally getting nice, so I thought today I would make a video on the complete build list and pricing for me to build this car. I'll let you know how much horsepower it made when I got it tuned, and then hopefully in a few weeks the weather will be a lot nicer. I'll have my good tires on, and then we can do some driving videos, some pulls. So if you want to see some driving and pulls, please hit that subscribe button down below and stay tuned for some awesome content. Let's get started. Okay, so for everyone who's been following this build already, I'll just get the horsepower figure out of the way, also because it's probably in the title of this video. So it made 350 wheel horsepower and I think around 275 foot-pounds of torque to the front wheels. And this is a little lower than I was expecting, but there are two main reasons why. Let me explain you those reasons right now. So the first reason, I have 1000cc fuel injectors and a turbo that is plenty big enough and the motor is strong enough. My goal is 400 to the wheels. I got that at the crank, which is around 350 wheel horsepower. And the two main reasons why I didn't make that power was because I was running 91 octane fuel rather than 94 or E85 even. The reason for that is because where I live and where I drive, it's a little hard to get to, and I drive this thing a lot. It has over 400,000 kilometers, so I didn't want to be in a tight situation and put the wrong fuel in. And secondly, it has a 3-inch downpipe going to a 2.5-inch exhaust, and that down step, that restriction, causes a little bit of back pressure, which also restricted my horsepower. So if I ever wanted to in the future, I could upgrade my fuel and the downpipe and probably make 400 to 450 wheel horsepower. But I like this power goal. I'm still yet to hook up fully on these tires, and I probably won't break any transmissions or break my motor. So you know what, for this season I'm going to run it like this, and maybe with more funding I'll break 400 wheel horsepower. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the build sheet. Okay, so we are going to start over here in the engine bay, and I'm going to try and do it in a nice chronological order, but I might have a hard time doing that. Also, every single price listed here is in Canadian dollars after shipping. So if you live in the States, this will probably be about half this much, but that's just one of the downsides to living up north. So we're going to start off with the shell and the motor because they kind of came together. Pretty much I bought this EP3 with a K24A2 out of a 2005, the early generation TSX. It also came with my K Pro V4, and I got that whole kit and caboodle for $2,500 Canadian. So that covers the motor. This is an unopened motor, so that is the entire cost of the motor and the shell of the car. So also the transmission is a stock 5-speed EP3 transmission. Those ones are nice and strong, and it has a competition clutch, stage 4 clutch, which ran me $900 from Velocity Racing Performance in Toronto. Alright, might as well jump right into the fuel system since it's right here. My fuel system is 1000cc FID injectors. Those were $550. This eBay fuel rail, they kind of look funny and they're not a name brand, but they work. They are on all of our K-Series cars. That was $50. The entire 6AN fuel feed and return line setup, I will check my sheet here, cost me $300. That's every single anodized fitting and PTFE, sorry, non-PTFE, just the regular rubber 6AN hose. I also have a 6AN fuel pressure regulator. This is an off-brand one I got on eBay. I think this was around $90. And the fuel pump is a Walbro 255. Those are around $100. So if I'm not mistaken, I think there's also a fuel filter, which was around $40. That is my entire fuel system. Before moving to the turbo setup, let's get rid of a few more accessories in the engine bay. I can probably zoom in on a few of these for you guys. As you can see here, I have upgraded Hasport engine mounts. These are the 75A variety. This is great for any motor running around 400 horsepower, and those were $570 off of Technotic.com. Here is my K-tuned 4-bar map sensor that ran me around $120 off of eBay. And also you can see that I actually have an upgraded intake, a throttle body, and this also came with my motor for $2,500. I know I'm missing something, but I think that is most of the accessories and the fuel setup, so now let's jump right into the turbo setup. So my turbo setup I was lucky enough to find used on Kijiji, which is the Canadian version of Craigslist for everyone in the States. And basically my setup is a CX Racing T4 Sidewinder manifold with a 38mm wastegate flange. I am running a Garrett GT3582R dual ball bearing T4 turbo. Fairly big turbo, but it has, I believe, a 0.7 hot side and a 0.68 rear, so it spools very quickly. I have a eBay just knockoff style 38mm wastegate with a dump tube, not going back into the exhaust, just dumping out. I'm running a CX Racing 3-inch downpipe going to an eBay 2.5-inch straight through exhaust. I think it has a resonator and a muffler, but that's it. Intercooler piping, just a mishmash of eBay piping and couplers. I have a 4-inch intake, which I just custom made using a 90-degree coupler, a 12-inch straight section, and a 4-inch blue, obviously, intake cone. So that, I believe, is all of the stuff. Oh, I also have a off-brand eBay blow-off valve. If you can't tell, that's kind of the theme of this car right now. So I paid, I believe it was $2,300 for all of the hot side components. That's the downpipe, manifold, turbo, and actually the oil and water lines for the turbo as well. Then on top of that, the intercooler piping and blow-off valve was around $200. This guy here I had already, but that would have been around $50 for the wastegate and the spring and the valve seat. And then the 2.5-inch exhaust, which goes from my downpipe all the way to the muffler, was an eBay special, and that ran me $292. The intake, this was from Amazon. All three components totaled around $80. And few little things such as the boost controller. It's a manual boost controller. All the vacuum lines, the turbo shield, the heat wrap. As you can see, I heat wrap pretty much everything in this engine bay. Added up to another $100 or so. That's just an approximation. Now lastly, let's step into the interior and finish off the build list. In case you're curious, first of all, here is the big old can on the eBay exhaust. And I put an Odyssey badge on this thing because I think it's hilarious. So let's start the interior with the trunk. Not much here, except I wanted to mention that I did move the battery to the trunk to make room for the intercooler piping. Pretty much a must if you're going a Sidewinder setup. So the battery box and the cable to run front to back probably ran me around $40. I was able to get the cable from a junkyard, which saved me a couple dollars. Shout out. And also the interior I was able to keep pretty stock. I really like stock interior setups. One thing, this is where I put my boost controller. You can see right beside the cruise control. Obviously now that it's tuned, I cannot touch that. And the only other interior mod is my triple gauge pod setup with oil pressure, boost, and air fuel ratio. Everything else in here is 100% stock, I guess, except for my aftermarket din. But that is everything on the interior of the car. So here's the full build list of my EP3. As you can see, this is pre-turbo as well. This is also just a lot of maintenance parts. I'll quickly scroll through it if you guys want to pause it and give it a read to see the exact price of every single thing I paid for my build and our total at the very end of the build. Oh, the wind's going to blow away my paper. If I can focus on it. There it is. $8,936. That is including the price of the car for my Turbo EP3 build. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed that price build breakdown. And so for just under $9,000 Canadian, including the entire price of the car, I say it was quite a cool build, especially for that price. I was able to find a few good deals, but other stuff I probably overpaid for, so I guess it all works out in the end. Let me know what you guys think down below. Of course, keep into consideration that this is Canadian dollars and we always get dinged with import fees and everything. I guarantee if you were in the States, you could have built this car for $5,000 American. Of course, the conversion works out to around $8,000 anyway, but I love it, and it's probably the most reliable car I'll ever own for that price range. I know that the GS has cost me probably more than double that, so you gotta love the Honda game for those reasons alone. But please subscribe down below, because I'm going to probably be driving this car now that the nicer weather is coming and the snow is melting. I also have to put my new tires on so I can actually put my power to the ground. But as always, thanks for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe.